Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Friday evening, November 3, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather-related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at what the U.S. National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that we still have that area highlighted across portions of the Western Caribbean. It now has a 10% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. And we know that that is definitely going to run out, considering that that system is about to hit Central America. And we saw on the infrared satellite images the rainbow loop showing all the clouds, showers and thunderstorms associated with this system. And we even showed a thumbnail yesterday on our YouTube platform showing these very clouds and saying that this is a very bad situation, especially for sections of Central America, where if we remember the high rainfall totals that were predicted, definitely sections of Belize, northeastern Guatemala and Honduras were predicted to receive some crazy amounts of rainfall that could trigger a lot of flash flooding. And if we take a look at what the models are showing in terms of what's to happen regarding the system, we can see that the Euro model is showing that the system definitely enters sections of Central America, and we can also see that we still have some amount of greens that represent rainfall right there across sections of the Jamaica area going into Saturday, not to mention even Sunday. But do we have consensus on the GFS model? Do both maps show the same thing? Let's take a look at the GFS. We can see that all the rainfall associated with that system is going into Central America. Then if we take a look at Jamaica, we can see that we still have some amount of greens across the island, definitely affecting us with some amount of rainfall Saturday as well as Sunday. If we take a look at what the United States Climate Prediction Center is showing for their 2 to 3 week outlook on their global tropics hazards outlook, we can see that across the Caribbean, including Jamaica, we have some amount of greens that represent some amount of above normal rainfall that's expected, stretching all the way from the Central Caribbean into the southwestern and western Atlantic right there. Definitely even more abundant with the darker shades of greens across the Jamaica area. That is valid for November 8 to 14. And we can also see some amount of whites and reds, and we see that on both maps from that time period as well as from November 15 to November 21. And we know that by the key at the bottom, the lighter shades of greens, not to mention the brighter shades of greens, represent some amount of above normal rainfall from 50% chance to about a 65% chance, while the whites and the reds together actually represent a 20% chance of tropical cyclone formation. And even although the chance is low, we can't sweep this under the rug at all. Let us take a look at what the GFS forecast is showing for 12Z on Friday, which is actually 7 a.m. Friday, November 17. And what do we have here? A landfalling, possibly major hurricane across sections of Jamaica. But the thing is, we have to take these models with a grain of salt. We know how these things go. They'll be showing something now and then another thing later, and that was indeed what happened. So although this was making a buzz on social media earlier today when it came out during midday, look at what came out only an hour ago on the 18Z. This is the same time period, 7 a.m. Friday, November 17, and look at that, we don't see anything around the Jamaica area at all. So it just goes to show that these models don't really know exactly what's going to happen. Either way, both maps from the year and GFS are definitely showing an increase in the rainfall across the Caribbean, which goes in line with what the maps that we showed earlier this week from the CFS, CANSIPS, and NME models have been showing. There's definitely going to be an increase in the amount of rainfall across the Caribbean for the month of November. So we need to get ready for that. Hopefully there's no serious flash flooding that takes place. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we still have multiple troughs across the Atlantic, as represented by those broken orange lines. You can also see that we still have a cold front that stretches all the way from another section of the North Atlantic all the way down into portions of the Bahamas and sections of the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, not to mention western Cuba. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the clouds associated with that cold front stretching all the way from the northern section of the North Atlantic all the way down into portions of the Bahamas, Cuba, and sections of Central America, where they are also dealing with that area of low pressure that's bringing lots of thunderstorm activity to those countries. We can also see some fast moving low level clouds from east to west, as well as east southeast to west northwest across the Central Caribbean. These are the clouds that are definitely going to be bringing more in the way of rainfall to sections of especially eastern Jamaica on Saturday, and it has already started tonight, and there's definitely more rainfall in the forecast. We can also see some amount of clouds bringing some rainfall, showers, and thunderstorms to sections of the Windward Island, especially the Leeward Island, getting in on some hit or miss showers at this time. We will be talking more about the Caribbean's weather later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for Friday. It was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall across sections of eastern Jamaica last night into early Friday morning, and sections of central and western parishes would have gotten in on some of that rainfall during Friday afternoon. And we know that when we're talking about eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey. When we're talking about central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex. And when we're talking about western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. And what ended up happening? Yes, we did indeed have some amount of clouds bring some isolated showers to sections of eastern Jamaica throughout the day, and some of this even spread to sections of some central and western parishes, as we saw the post that was made on the visible satellite images that were made also on our Twitter page, not to mention our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok pages. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there. You can also see another post that was made at 6 p.m. highlighting the Cuban Doppler radar images, still showing the greens that represent light to moderate rainfall, not to mention some amount of yellows within there, definitely affecting those same spots, sections of St. Thomas and Portland, Jamaica, as well as some coastal areas of some southern and northern parishes. So definitely sections of southern Clarendon, southern Manchester, sections of St. Anne and St. Mary as well. And we even have confirmation of this rainfall. Shawnee Reynolds on Facebook stating Stony Hill had heavy rain. And even on our Instagram page, we had 1876 Bay stating on and off rain in Kingston. Camp Blaine Venice stating rainy on Westmoreland. And if we even take a look at the halfway tree and the crossroads cam from See Jamaica's YouTube channel at around the time period from 2:40 to about 3 p.m. today, we definitely had some amount of rainfall in the corporate area, and we saw that rainfall, definitely some sideways rainfall, blowing in some strong wind. We see people with their umbrella, school children especially. The cars have their wipers on, so this indeed confirms the rainfall that we had across the corporate area for today. So it was starting at around that time, and then it progressed into some more heavy rainfall. And if you'd like to see more live streams of the corporate era, please ensure that you visit See Jamaica's YouTube channel. They have live streams of the city view overlooking Kingston and St. Andrew, the Kingston Harbor, Crossroads, and Halfway Tree. And keep in mind that they're actually working on getting more live feeds set up across the island in general. So definitely more to come, so stay tuned. Taking a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see that we indeed had that easterly flow brought about by that strong easterly wind across the island that brought some amount of isolated showers to sections of eastern, central, and western Jamaica. Even although most areas didn't receive rainfall, some persons were even complaining about the rainfall. We did indeed have rainfall, but it just wasn't as widespread as some were expecting it to be. But we're indeed grateful for the rainfall that we got. And even if we take a look at the Cuban Doppler radar images right now, we can still see that we have a lot of rainfall right there to the south of the island, as well as the west of the island, still having some more isolated showers heading in the direction of St. Thomas. This is the latest loop from the Cuban Doppler radar site showing 7:40 p.m. So there's definitely some amount of rainfall in store for sections of the island later on. And if we take a look at the rainfall totals that we had across the island for today, we can see that we indeed had that rainfall across sections of eastern Jamaica especially, not to mention inland areas of some central and western parishes. So this indeed confirms what we just saw. Definitely some coastal areas of some northern parishes, coastal areas of some southern parishes, most of eastern Jamaica including St. Thomas and Portland spilling into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew, as well as some inland areas of some central and western parishes. So definitely northern Clarendon, northern St. Catherine, northern Manchester, northern St. Elizabeth, southern St. Anne, southern Trelawney, southern St. James, and sections of Hanover and Westmoreland. Taking a look at the temperatures right now across Jamaica, we can say we have 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston and 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. And as the night progresses, the temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see that 18Z on Saturday, which is actually 1 p.m. on a Saturday, has Jamaica embedded in some yellows and slight oranges that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures across Jamaica for the month of November are about 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius as we can see on the thermometer. So if we should be receiving 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for Jamaica for tomorrow, it should be anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at most. As it relates to the dry air map, we can still see that we have a lot of dry air across the Gulf of Mexico, off the east coast of the United States, across the North Atlantic in general, not to mention off the coast of Africa. And majority of the Caribbean, as well as around Jamaica, has a lot of moist air, as we can see by the blues. Anywhere we see the blues, that's usually where the air is very moist. And we can see it even better being represented by the key at the bottom. The yellows represent dry air, and the more right we go is the more intense the dry air gets. So oranges, reds, and whites within those reds. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, we do see those slight shades of browns that we indeed have across sections of the main development region. We did have some of that across the Jamaica area on Saturday, but this is the forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday, but this is the forecast for 2 p.m. on Saturday. So this is the forecast. We don't see much in the way of Saharan dust across the Jamaica area. It's starting to dwindle. Majority of the Caribbean as well. Majority of the dust is right there across the main development region and Africa. As it relates to the wave forecast, we indeed were grateful for the strong winds that we had across the Jamaica area today, so it didn't feel as hot as we've been experiencing for the entire summer. And we can see that we still have more high waves in the forecast for especially the south and the eastern side of the island for Saturday. And we can see it being represented by the purples, and when we take a look at the key at the bottom right, the purples we know represent up to 2 meter wave heights, and we know that the waves are in response to the winds. So definitely some blues on the north and west side of the island on both the Euro and the GFS model that represent 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's due to the fact that the winds are going to be still coming in from the east, averaging maybe 20 to 25 knots on the south and the eastern side of the island, averaging let's say 10 to 20 knots at most on the north and the west side of the island. And we do see that area is going to be piling up across inland areas of some central and western parishes in Jamaica. So definitely if we're going to be having some amount of afternoon rainfall, it's going to be across those spots, inland areas of some central and western parishes. Not to mention all of that wind coming in from the east, from off the sea, definitely heading straight into sections of eastern Jamaica. So definitely some more rainfall is in store tonight into tomorrow for sections of St. Thomas, Portland, maybe even spilling into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. And with the upper level winds blowing in from the north, the rainfall is definitely going to be favoring more in the way of some southern parishes in Jamaica. So these parishes on the south coast, so St. Thomas, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Kingston, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. And if we take a look at the rainfall forecast by both the Euro and the GFS models, we do see the consensus that yes, we're in for some amount of rainfall, especially across eastern Jamaica. That's where we see the blues that represent rainfall. Sections of St. Thomas, Portland, and this is valid for 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 1 a.m. Jamaica time. Keep in mind that the rain has already started tonight and there's definitely more rain to come. We can also see that if we skip ahead to about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 9 a.m. Jamaica time, we still have much of the same. Blues that represent rainfall across sections of St. Thomas and Portland for that time on the Euro, not to mention on the GFS as well. Skipping ahead to about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 12 p.m. Jamaica time, we do see much of the same. Blues that represent rainfall across especially eastern Jamaica with those darker shades of blues starting to spill and make its way into sections of some central parishes on the GFS, more in the way of central and western parishes on the Euro model. I know that we're looking for a consensus, we're looking for what both maps are showing, and there's definitely some amount of consensus for the rainfall to be across sections of central and western Jamaica on both the Euro and the GFS models. Skipping ahead to about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, much of the same, even more intense, especially across sections of Portland with those darker shades of blues, sections of northern Jamaica as well, western St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, sections of Hanover and Westmoreland are indeed in the forecast for some afternoon rainfall. That's 3 p.m. Jamaica time for Saturday. And the rainfall continues into the night time. Look at this. This is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 8 p.m. Jamaica time. We do see much of the same. Definitely blues that represent rainfall across sections of eastern Jamaica. And if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, we do see the consensus that considering that these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing from now up until 10 p.m. on Saturday, the consensus is for rainfall across the island, especially across the eastern portion of the island, as we can see those colors. The Euro is a bit less robust than the GFS, the Euro showing up to 0.54 of an inch of rainfall, the GFS showing up to 0.89 of an inch of rainfall, so close to an inch of rainfall is expected. And we're indeed grateful for that rainfall that we're going to be receiving. We're in the month of November. We usually receive a decrease in the amount of rainfall as opposed to what we get in the month of October. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we wrap up the rainy season. The rainy season ends at the end of November, and then the dry season comes into play around December to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we have a lot of clouds, all of that circulation, showers and thunderstorms heading right into sections of Central America. So definitely sections of southern Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, sections of Mexico getting in on some very heavy thunderstorms, cloud cover, rainfall, flash flooding definitely taking place at this time. You can also see across sections of the Cayman Islands, Cuba, the Bahamas as well associated with that cold front, and those fast low-level winds coming in from the east heading straight into Jamaica. So we're definitely gonna still be receiving some amount of isolated showers coming into especially eastern Jamaica tonight into tomorrow. We can also see that rainfall that we mentioned earlier across sections of the Windward Islands, not to mention sections of Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana as well. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we do see where we have that rainfall right now. Definitely sections of the US Virgin Islands, eastern Puerto Rico. Definitely a lot of hit or miss showers, some isolated showers in general across the Leeward Islands. So St. Martin, St. Kitts, Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique. Look at all of this rainfall south of there now across the Windward Islands. We can see it even better on the Barbados radar. We know the blues represent light rainfall, the greens represent moderate, and the yellows represent some heavy rainfalls. And we can see Barbados is definitely getting in on some of that right now. Definitely some flash flooding could be taking place as we speak into tomorrow as well. And we can see some of that heading into sections of St. Lucia, St. Vincent, sections of Grenada, not to mention Trinidad and Tobago getting the heavy weather as we speak. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we do see some isolated spots getting some rainfall across sections of northern Venezuela. But look at that right there into sections of northeastern Guatemala, sections of northern Honduras, Belize, sections of Mexico as well. They're definitely getting dumped on. Lots of rainfall as we speak. Flood, and definitely is going to be triggering some amount of flash flooding if it's not already happening. So ensure that if you live in one of those areas, you try your best to stay safe. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we do see the blues that represent below normal temperatures across the southern United States, eastern portions of Mexico's coast right there up the Gulf of Mexico, while it's the central and western Caribbean that should be receiving majority of the above normal temperatures, with mostly average or normal temperatures across the eastern Caribbean, with the exception of sections of the Windward Islands. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, we do see that majority of the Caribbean should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Saturday. As it relates to the wave forecast, we do see that the Caribbean should be getting anywhere from 1 to at least 2 meter wave height, and that's due to the fact that the winds are going to be averaging anywhere from 10 to at least 20 or maybe even up to 25 knot gusts at most coming in from the east. As relates to the rainfall forecast now, we do see that both the Euro and the GFS models are showing something very similar. Definitely some rainfall in store for sections of eastern Florida, the Bahamas, sections of northern Cuba, not to mention sections of the Dominican Republic, sections of Puerto Rico, some more isolated showers in store for the Leeward Islands. Look at anywhere below Guadeloupe, definitely sections of Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, sections of Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago are in for some more rainfall as we continue tonight into tomorrow. But look, as we shift southward, we don't see the consensus for rainfall across Suriname, but definitely sections of Guyana, sections of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, especially Honduras northwestern, Honduras northeastern, Guatemala, Belize, where we see those purples and grays, definitely gonna be getting in on some more flash flooding taking place. And we know that when both maps are showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.